The organised crime group in this case clearly see no borders. They're Latvian based but operating criminality in the UK. Now, one consideration for us early on in the investigation was that they could be operating in other countries. So in order to establish that and to see what their history was and whether they had committed offences in other countries, we started passing intelligence through Europol, which is a police intelligence function in Holland. So we started submitting and sharing intelligence with Latvia, and I was given some advice early on about something called a joint investigation team, or a JIT, which we call it for short. The JIT actually is a formal document that both member states sign, but it allows you to work with the other member state like you would with any police force down the road. So in effect, my team could work with the Latvian police like we would a team from West Mids or a team from the Met. And it really just opened the floodgates. We could share information between us. Anything that we held that was useful to the investigation in Latvia, we could pass to them. And it was as simple as picking up the phone and speaking to my opposite number in Latvia.
And we were able to gain a better understanding of family connections, addresses that suspects were likely to be at, and that really enabled us some great planning to execute the European arrest warrants, and for us to be sure that we were going to get hold of Karen Zamadara and bring them back to the UK to face justice.
We've got other evidence that was out there. You know, when we start to look at proceeds of crime, it just opened up a network of other areas that we could look at, with the intention now of changing the focus from that victim side to now more towards that evidential side. So, for credit where it's due, and all the research that was done, that was probably one of the best turning points within the operation.
The joint investigation team process is, as far as I'm concerned, instrumental in getting a true reflection of an investigation. It's important that we get that beginning process and the end process. Very often in the UK we have the exploitation and we have the elements of transport within the UK. It's very difficult to sometimes explain to a jury the recruitment process, the reason for recruitment, that vulnerability in country, because we often feel that the jury potentially feel as though the victims are actually better off in the UK. Well, that may well be the case in relation to their domestic situation, but it doesn't make it right in the UK because we have a standard that we must adhere to. So having come out here and sort of entered into the JIT process, we're able to show that beginning and the end process.
With the joint investigation now established, the Derbyshire team started building bridges with their counterparts from the Latvian State Police. Visits between the two countries, funded by Europol, helped the Latvian and British officers come up with a plan to tackle the human trafficking ring at its roots.
We were actually working alongside a dedicated team within the State Police of Latvia that deal primarily with the trafficking of human beings. I think we were exceptionally lucky to have been put in touch with this team. They were absolutely professional and they were really receptive actually to what we were trying to achieve. They really were, the Latvian cops really were an extension of our team. We were able to travel to Latvia and locate and find many other victims that we knew had been subject to criminality within the UK. And we were able to work with the Latvian police and provide them with the same amount of safeguarding and reassurance that we would with the victims that were located in the UK.
It was during one of the first trips to Latvia that Carl and his team were able to see firsthand just how vulnerable some of the victims had been when they had been recruited by the gang. The Latvian officers showed them some of the conditions they had been living in, including one derelict building that one man had fashioned into a home.
One we found under a bridge. He was just by a burnt out fire. It was freezing conditions. And I think for me it just really hit home that actually these people have been exploited because they don't have anything and the promise of that better life. And seeing the conditions that they lived in, you understand why the offenders preyed on them. They were just seen as easy targets for them. And you just understand why they accepted the offer of coming to the UK to make a better life.
Every shocking piece of evidence helped build the case against the gang. Thanks to the joint investigation team working so well together, the plan to track down and arrest the remaining members of the gang moved along quickly. And months after the warrants in Derby, the investigation team were ready to strike again, This time, more than 1,000 miles away.